YouTube. Well, first of all, a shout out to Trouble8385 again, because he actually listed my channel this time on his latest YouTube gaming community post. So anyway, I'm going to hit both my Sony collections. Yes, I know, I've got the one video up talking about my issues with Sony, and I'd actually debated not showing my Sony collection, but this project did start out a little bit as documenting the collection, so we're going to go ahead, despite the fact that it's going to give them some advertising. So I'll start with the reasons why I got into the PlayStation 1, and I blame Mike for introducing me to these. It's the arcade compilation packages. In this case, Midway's Atari Collection 1, and their Atari Collection 2, and of course the Midway Collection 2. I want to get the Midway Collection 1 at some point. Then their Williams Collection. I hate the long box. I want to either get the jewel case version of it or actually print the insert so I can put it in with the jewel cases. Okay, the first of the incompletes, the Midway Arcade Party Pack. Keep this around specifically for the Smash TV. It's got Rampage on it, but my friend Mike actually has a stand-up Rampage cabinet, so it's kind of no fun when you've got that to play around with every so often. Okay, the first of the fighting games, Bushido Blade. It's a one-hit kill system on this one. This is definitely not your typical button masher. Fortunately, it didn't do well, even though it does have a sequel. I don't like the sequel as much because of some of the changes to the control system, specifically going between stances. Okay, another incomplete, another fighting game, Bust-A-Groove 2. This is one where you're basically dancing off. I've played the original. I want to get the original, but this is literally the only copy I've ever seen out in the wild. Okay. Crash Bandicoot. This is part of my backlog. Found this at a thrift store. And of course, Crash Bandicoot Warped. Sadly incomplete. Alright, another fighting game incomplete. It's Darkstalkers 3. There's another one I haven't really seen out in the wild. I think I'd like to replace it with a complete copy, but we all know how that goes. The gap, there is a definite gap here for a double case. That is for the Chrono Trigger Final Fantasy IV compilation package. It's actually on loan to my friend Rob right now, so you can play Chrono Trigger. I really need to get it back from him because I believe he's finished the game now. Okay, thrift store find a Final Fantasy VII. When I saw this, I was all over it because I know how expensive this one is, even in the green label. It's also part of my backlog. More backlog. This one I actually found at Entertainmart down in Colorado Springs, and it was at a thrift store price. I paid maybe $4 for this. Just quite incredible for me to see there when I saw it. Even though it's not one of the more sought after versions, it's like, hey, I know how much that's probably worth. I know that price I pay is a pittance. Okay, so next up, incomplete also, Gauntlet Legends. Another one. I'm actually not sure I'm going to try to replace this with a complete copy. Because, well, I've played through it a couple times. I'm not sure it's going to be replayed much. Okay, into the first racing game, Hydro Thunder. PlayStation is unusual because I have racing games for it, but none of them are your traditional car racer. Well, except I actually do have, well, it qualifies as one, but Destruction Derby. no manual to this one. It's another one of those gosh darn long boxes, which I really don't like. Well, at least that one's cardboard. It's not nearly as fragile. Okay, so get back into another compilation, the Konami Arcade Classics. Not a lot that I play much on. I might play Gyrus every so often off of this, but the rest of them just kind of on, so. Okay, another one of my thrift store finds, Metal Gear Solid, in the backlog. That's how a lot of my backlog seems to be thrift store purchases. I wonder why that is. So, more of the reason why I wound up getting into the PlayStation, thanks to Mike. So, the first Namco Museum package, in its greatest hits form. The second Namco Museum volume. I would like to get a complete copy, but I haven't seen it out there. And to be honest, it may be more than I'm willing to pay, since they never re-released that as a greatest hits compilation, since there was an issue with the licensing, from my understanding. So I'll get on with Volume 3 of Namco Museum. Again, I blame Mike. Mike hadn't shown those to me, maybe my illness wouldn't be so bad. Okay, yes, I have golf games. PGA Tour 97 and 98, albeit disc only. Haven't played them much. Okay, Rampage World Tour. Again, don't play this as much as I could, probably because my friend Mike has a stand-up Rampage cabinet. We need to get everyone together again to play that. Okay, so I know it's not its original case, but the director's cut of the first Resident Evil game. I got this from my brother. And it's mostly in a small case because it stacks easier. And we have Resident Evil 2. Which has everything in it. Unfortunately, the case is somewhat beat up. I also got that from my brother. Okay. Incomplete. And this is the one that took me 3 copies to find a working one from the Game Crazy down the way. That's terribly sad that they're gone. But yeah, I've developed a thing for wrestling games. It is a fighting game. I do still have my save file for this that includes many custom characters. Okay, Tempest. At one point I was trying to make a roll controller for this, but that didn't get anywhere. Okay, another one of my best thrift store finds. Paid $4 for this. The only problem is the manual is a little bit water damaged. But the discs are good. The game does work. It's in my backlog. Gee, I sense a theme here. Okay, back to the racing games. Wipeout XL. And Wipeout 3. Just because I can. I did try I believe it was Wipeout Fusion for the PS2, and that thing was so buggy it wasn't even worth it. I lost 2 save files to it. Okay, Xevious 3D Stroke G+. I like Xevious the game, so it was just natural I had to track this down. Had to again settle for an incomplete copy for it. And not original case, but a complete copy of Yu-Gi-Oh! This is also in my backlog, I'm afraid. And it's been there for a few years now. Alright, so if I can get us down to the PS2 collection. So, Capcom Classics collection. Which I've got, because it's got Street Fighter 2, Ghosts and Goblins, Ghouls and Ghosts, and Final Fight on it. Dead or Alive 2. Well, at least it's not Dead or Alive 1. I've got both DOA 1 and 2 for the Xbox. I had DOA 1 for the PS1, but I finally got rid of it, just like, Okay. Another thrift store find. I've always been a bit curious as to why this one really took off in the anime communities. It's also in my backlog, eventually. Another backlog game. This one came from my brother. Eventually, I will get around to playing. Actually, I'll get around to playing most everything eventually. Also from my brother, I didn't intend to get a Grand Theft Auto game, but, you know, if he's just going to give it to me, I'm not going to complain too much. Of course, it's fun to pull these out and occasionally throw out a couple of songs. Although now my friend has a good rock band setup going. Okay, more backlog. Just because I can. Next two are definitely not in the backlog. I have played through these. I played through these with my friend Mike. The Lego games are a lot of fun. These are the few games that I'll pick one up, and they tend not to stay in my backlog. In fact, they tend to jump to the head of the pack. Same thing with this one. I don't have the others for the PS2. That's because Mike has the Harry Potter, not the Harry Potter, the Indiana Jones and the Batman ones. Another compilation. This one I picked up because it's got the Mortal Kombat's copy of Gauntlet 2, Wizard of War, Xenophobe, and a couple others that might be amusing to play every so often. It's definitely one of the better packages. I haven't played this much. I'm not sure how much play I'm actually going to get out of this one. This is the newest Mortal Kombat I own, and it's probably going to stay that way. I might pick up Alliance just because or rather Armageddon just because I'll be able to create a custom character in that, but no guarantees. Robotech Battlecry. Unfortunately, I'm kind of stuck on this one. I'm stuck on the escort mission. Perhaps the worst escort mission out there. Okay. Yes, I know. You feminists can go ahead and blast me all you want. It's a fun little wrestling game. Another arcade compilation. So this one I can get Fatal Fury, Burning Fight, Artifying. This one is heavy on the fight games. King of the Monsters is a good one to have on out of here. Eventually I'll play through some of the titles on there. Soul Calibur 2, another fight game. Soul Calibur 3, yet again, fight game. The 2-pack for Space Channel 5. Now, I had picked up the original Space Channel 5 for the Dreamcast, but when I saw this at the thrift store, it's like, both games. So I picked it up, and I gave my friend Mike the Dreamcast copy. It's also in my backlog, sadly. And finally, the Taito Legends, which I picked up for Space Invaders, Phoenix, the Super Kicks on it. And eventually I'll go through and play all the rest of the games just to see what they're like. That's it. That's the overview of my Sony collections. And I'll talk to you later.